Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Shruti, Patra, and I would be talking through developing your product strategy muscle for growing into executive roles. I work as a senior product manager in Yum Brands. My troops here to cheer me on. And while we were talking through this today, another friend, Justin, he pointed out that I have a missed opportunity here throughout my entire presentation because this talks about muscles, and I'm not a gym bro. I have not tied my entire presentation to any analogies related to gym, but we'll see. But on that point, what Justin very well pointed out is that all of these gym strategies and everything is sometimes fluff, right? I will not go this far to say product management is fluff, but product management skills are pretty much built on top of lagging metrics. Like somebody has done it, somebody has experienced it, and that's how we build everything together. So this presentation is also based on research and some personal experiences of how people have done it, but looking forward to feedback, looking forward to a more interactive session where you share, this might work in some scenarios, but I've seen this work better this way. So that's what we will be talking through. Okay. Yeah, before I kick this off, as I said, this is my first unconference. I don't want it to be completely a presentation based. So anybody wants to share what their expectation is from this session, just to make sure that I set expectations right before we kick off. Anyone? Here you go, Dan.
I just want to hear how other people are getting better at strategy because it's such a huge part of our job. And so hearing other examples is really helpful.
Thank you. Yes. So in this session, we will talk through some companies, some examples of companies who have used different, some of these strategies or mindset to build their product strategies. And we'll also open this floor up for people to share if this resonates with them, they can share examples of how they have done this in their company or they think this would work for them. So with that, I move on to the agenda for today. So we'll kick off with an introduction and we'll talk through five key pointers. And we'll get to that in a bit and we'll conclude and then we'll open the floor for questions. But as I said, with every point that we hit, we'll open the floor again and take any questions that you have or anything that you want to share with the group. So let's kick this off. So in our day-to-day as product managers, we tend to be so engrossed in our product delivery, product implementation, tied to our OKRs, key results, which is tweaking two or three at max key metrics, and we keep tweaking them, identifying new solutions, thinking of new avenues to grow that product, like conversion rate, revenue, or whatever that is, that we sometimes forget to broaden our lenses and think beyond what is there that would help us grow our product further. And that's where strategy comes into the picture. Well, I'm not saying that what we are doing right now is not valuable, but that is where most of the product management people are right now. And I'm pretty sure it would have crossed your mind, somebody in this room, it would have crossed your mind is that, this thought would have crossed your mind is that, is this enough for me to stand out? Is this enough for me to grow into a product leadership position? And that's where, as I said, product strategy comes in. And as noted in our keynote speech today, strategy comes with practice. With some key guidelines that the PMs can internalize, we can build the skills. In today's discussion, we'll touch upon these 5 skills that you would need to build, hone, and show to your leaders to get noticed and to show them that you're ready for the next position. The first one is your company's vision, or your product's vision and product goals. Focus where it matters. Vision statement is generally aspirational, and it points to the long-term goals of your product. We'll briefly touch upon how to build a product vision in this session, very briefly. Before you embark on a journey of building your vision statement, it's very important for you to know what your company's goal, your strategies are, what your company will never get into. That's also very important for you to know. What are the key drivers of your company? I'll just give 3 minutes on the clock for people to pull out their notebooks and write down their own vision statement for the product, if you have not already done that. And then we'll open the floor for someone to share what they have. And if they've already done it, then share how did they build it. Yeah, we'll start now. Okay, 3 minutes up. And as I shared before, this is just reiterating the points. We need to think about the users, the market your product's targeting. What are your long-term goals? What are these aspirational goals again? These are not tactical, these are aspirational goals. And what's your company's vision or mission? And you tie it to the vision statement. So we'll open this floor up for anyone who wants to share their vision statement and how did they arrive at that? Anybody? Any takers? Awesome.
I'm gonna learn some stuff today. All right. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. My name is Tori Fisher. I work for Chamberlain Group. However, this vision statement was when I worked at McDonald's. And the way I created this, I used a template that helped me define my users, how my product would be differentiated from my competitors in the market, and then just kind of like a future state of things. So I'm going to read it to you. The feedback that I received from the product team at that time was that it was too long. So I'll try to paraphrase as best as I can. There's no proprietary information in here, so I shouldn't get in trouble for sharing this, but I will do that right now. Okay. So just to give folks an idea, I was a product manager and my product was, I call it the menu domain. So the systems that enable the back end that support the customer facing menu channels, menu systems. Okay. For the customers who require access, consistent and reliable nutrition information, no matter which device they use, the Unified Menu Project is an integrated system that allows information to be processed in one place. Unlike the system we have today, Where there's a chance of manual errors and inconsistencies, this product will ensure the McDonald's brand has a trusted and transparent mechanism to make nutrition information available to our customers in any part of their purchase journey. So I'm definitely open to feedback, but I'm going to give it back to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great example of a vision statement. And some of the things that you can always do that you've already done is make it inspirational, something that people would aspire to, something that would rally them, and also keep space open for it to grow in the future. You should not bound yourself. Like if I don't have it off the top of my head, but if you remember how Google or Airbnb have defined their vision statement, it's pretty open. It's more like taking over the world kind of a thing. So it's like everything is out there for you, so don't limit yourself. So, but thank you, Tori, for sharing. But you may ask, why is this first guideline so important for building your product strategy muscle? Because every organization is different. It differs based on where your product is in its product's journey. For example, if your product is in the product maturity phase of your product life cycle, more or less your leaders are looking for a leader to come in with a skill set that's important to make sure that the product stays in retains the market space that it already has, and also finds different avenues to grow that product. Or if your product is in the product growth phase, then you're looking for leaders who can identify different growth levers and make the product grow as fast as it can. So it's very important that you understand where your product is, what your org's looking for, and limited by the bounds of a vision statement. So that's about vision and org goals. And the next step, as any product leader would do, is become an evangelist of your vision statement, empowering your teams, becoming that leader who comes into each of these conversations, decision-making rooms, and becomes that person who brings in the strategy, the vision statement at every point in time, saying, is this what we are aspiring towards? Every action that we're taking, is it going towards the vision that we have set up for our product? So becoming that person who empowers the team, as Marty Kagan has said, the product principles complement the product vision by speaking to the nature of the product that your organization believes it needs to produce. So it's a top-down approach of building your vision, then bringing it into every conversation, bringing your team along so that they understand the why behind everything that they are building, even when you're not in the room. And that's how you build empowered teams. That's how you scale. And that's very important for a product person who's looking to become a product leader at scale. So here's our overarching guideline that will give you the range to exercise your product strategy muscle, which is the product vision. We'll see how the rest of them tie to it. Second one is data-backed decisions. Now, why data? My Hollywood experience is pretty recent. I come from India, but I've seen that gut instinct or, guts has been romanticized to an extent where people say, well, this is my gut instinct, so we should do this. People tend to fly blind. But if you do that, you are not leveraging one of the key aspects that will help your product grow, which is data. I'm not saying instincts are not important, it's pretty important, but if you're not looking into data to move your product forward, you're missing out. We'll be looking at data from the perspective of building product strategy. I'm assuming you're already using data to build or grow your product right now. Implement it, keep tweaking those key metrics day in and day out, your monthly key results, quarterly key results, and making sure your product gets better. But we need to bring it one level up and broaden that horizon for a product person to grow into a product leadership position. You also need to expand your data lens to look to more than just the key metrics. Look at metrics that no one is looking at. Ask questions and be not limited by the key metrics that you're already tracking. Find out any insights that the data is hiding. As I feel that the keynote speaker did a great job of bringing strategy, and some of my pointers would probably be redundant here, but he talked about how about dashboards. When you keep looking at dashboards here, oh, I see that, Chris. Yeah. Yeah. So he talked about dashboards. So dashboards, if you keep looking at dashboards day in and day out and look at those key metrics, conversion rate, my revenue, my average user time, you're not thinking beyond. You need to find those areas to see what else is happening out there. And we'll talk about some examples from the industry where some of the successful companies have looked beyond. We talked about why data is important, and taking the example of Netflix, which just started as a DVD company, renting out DVDs. It's probably the first technology company that started creating original content. I'm not a betting person, but I guess nobody would have betted they would be in that space. How did they get there? They have extensive data on on users, like what are you watching? How long did you watch? Which one did you forward and watch? Which one did you rewind and watch? Which do you come back and keep watching? While their key strategy at that point in time was building a personalization engine, like a recommendation engine to show you content that you're keen on watching, they took it one step ahead. I bet their dashboard would be more like, these are the genres that people are watching, so let's make sure that the user keeps finding them. That's what they were trying to tweak, but they took it one step ahead. And what did they go? They said, well, if you already know what the user is looking for, why not rebuild it? And that's how Netflix is one of the key, most of the successful companies in the industry building original content. There were already content creators like Disney. They came in later to the streaming industry. This is the other way around for Netflix. So this is how just focusing on some of those data that nobody is seeing can lead you to success. But having said that, and I forget the name of the lady who was there in the first session asking questions, if you're so blinded by quantitative metrics, you are not looking into qualitative metrics. Netflix did that, looking where they did user research, but there's a better example of a company that did that. That is Airbnb. Airbnb was founded with the mission of providing affordable housing to backpackers. Nobody thought that they would get into the luxury space of providing experiences. And this is where Airbnb went out, did user studies, testimonials, they dug into the testimonials of users, and that's how they found out that there is a niche where people are looking for experiences, and hosts are looking to share these experiences with the users. They want to share their hobbies with these users, and this is how Netflix launched Airbnb experiences. So combining this quantitative and qualitative metrics generally brings out the right product strategy for you. Sometimes just focusing on that quantitative strategy has also led big companies to go for a wrong product strategy. Very common example is of Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola got a lot of quantitative, like all their data said that we should build a new Coca-Cola taste, and they called it New Coca-Cola. Well, they built it, they put it out in every market, and there was such huge backlash. And there are more companies like that which have done that, and they don't take into consideration the emotional, the user aspect, and which comes from qualitative insights. So I'm going to refute everything that I said in the next slide, but we'll wait for that. So now that you know that you should be looking out, building your quantitative and qualitative data strategy, the first thing to grow into a product leader is build that data strategy roadmap for you. There's a canvas that I can share later, but most of them, what you need to look into is making sure you have the right tools. And of course, it's compliant. You need to make sure of that. And building that data strategy of what you should be measuring and continuously improving it based on your experiences, based on the small incremental changes that you're bringing into your product. Look at defining your short-term, long-term goals. Most of the companies right now I know are backed by a very impressive data team. So use that data team, build your your data strategy along with them, and define and keep tweaking this. And this is how you are going to get those insights that other people are missing out, and you can stand out in front of your leaders. And one way to showcase these insights are in your QBRs or product reviews. If they don't happen in your company, create one quarterly to showcase what you're seeing. Yeah.
You're talking about the data. It's nice that you have all of these metrics, but when do you stop and say, okay, you're pulling a lagging, you want to be a leader? So you talk about the quarterly, but how many times before you get to that quarterly are you pausing and maybe asking a different question to pull different information? Like, how when you ask a question with data, it's the whole flavor of how you ask it, because you can ask a question and you'll get one data set, and then you'll get another and another and another. So then how do you analyze, I guess, do you have a framework for how you're analyzing which one is the one you should go for? Like, to the point that Chris brought up this morning, you have the good and the bizarre. And how are you, or what framework do you recommend or to use to kind of keep yourself in the good versus the bizarre?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that plagues a lot of teams right now, because there is no, at least to my knowledge, there's no one framework that you can employ to build it. But this is probably a guideline, or maybe how I'll talk about how I do it. It's probably something you put in your calendar for a bi-weekly, or once in a quarter, and you say that I'm going to go look at some data which is not coming from a dashboard. Look into different data sets and evaluate them to see what else inside that I'm getting that I'm missing out from this. You can start from a quarterly basis. That's one for the products that's already ongoing. There's another way to do it for products that you're currently launching. So for products or changes or big changes that you're currently launching, you can always look to see how you're making some smaller changes and keep learning from them. I believe there was a session today on continuous discovery. I'm not sure, but then this ties into continuous discovery, where you keep launching, making smaller changes into the market, and looking at all of these insights to rework on that strategy, which feeds back as a feedback cycle into that strategy to evaluate what else should I be doing here to make sure that my strategy sticks. So yeah, so that's one way I think we should. There's no one cut and dry method to do it, but it differs from product to product for sure. Yeah. Thank you for that question. Yeah, moving on to, so we talked about product vision, which is your overarching principle, and that bounds your data-backed decisions, because you want to bring out strategies backed by data, which is within the vision statement of your company. If you're looking at strategies which is not bound by your company's goals, mission, you will probably, all those efforts might be futile, because that's not probably where your company is heading at this point in time. The next step is team topology. Team topology refers to how we break up teams or the work among different product teams to best enable them to do great work. This includes the structure, the scope of the team, and the relationship to one another. Coming up with an effective team topology is a very difficult task. And generally, as product managers, I say generally as product managers, we don't think about it much, because we are so focused on tweaking our KPIs, are tweaking or building what next feature. We're not thinking about what more can I do and what are the bottlenecks in my team that's stopping me from growing or enabling that strategy for my team. So we'll learn about how it ties to product strategy and how you can bring it in. One of the very famous Conway's law is any organization that designs a system, it will produce a design whose structure is a copy of the organization's communication structure. You need to exercise this muscle of thinking. Is the team structured, and what can be changed to introduce your product strategy, as this would be one of the biggest bottleneck for your team to grow. I'll just briefly share one of the popular team topologies used nowadays by Matthew Skelton and Manuel P. This is how they define it. They have 4 kinds of teams. One is stream-aligned teams. Then you have these streamlined teams usually are long-running teams which are responsible for the entire stack, which is front end, back end, the entire scale. These are outcome-driven, and they're not activity-driven, which is like focused on business analysis or testing or any of those. Then you have these enabling teams which span across, which facilitate these stream-aligned teams. And you have your platform team, which provides X as a service to these stream-aligned teams. And then sometimes there is so much cognitive load on these stream-aligned teams because they're focused on a full stack implementation that you need to bring up these complicated subsystems which work on one specific aspect and work in a collaborative mode with these stream-aligned teams. This is one way to structure your team. I'm not saying this is the only way, but this is one way in which a lot of teams are structuring their teams so that you enable your product to grow, so that when you bring in new product strategies, your team is well structured to grow and expand. So again, we have team topology sitting right under product vision. So it would still be linked to your product vision. The third one is creating complementarity. Now, this is something that I guess Harvard came up with. It's about using innovative forward thinking to think of avenues which will complement your product and open up new growth avenues. It's very important for us to differentiate between complementarities and substitutes. So there's a great course on business strategies and Harvard Business Review. You can take a look at that, which talks about creating complementarities and how to understand what are different growth levers that you can identify and discerning complements from substitutes. We'll look at some great examples in the industry that have used this exact product strategy to build new avenues. And as a PM, if you're looking at taking data, looking at these insights that come from your data, and also back it up with a strong team topology, you can find ways, avenues to bring out these complementarity products that can sit along with your product. One of those examples have been of Sundar Pichai, who brought, who identified the need of a browser that was never in the strategy for Google. So, and there are other great examples of Apple App Store. Apple, initially when Apple was launched, they never wanted to allow third-party applications in their system. But looking at insights and growing that, or opening up to creating complementarities, they opened it up, and now it's a multi-billion industry where they charge developers for deploying their applications in their Play Store. Similarly, Amazon Web Services, it has grown more than Amazon right now. So there are a lot of examples where if we just look into the lens of our current product and not thinking beyond of what else we can do to supplement it, we are limiting ourselves. And this is one way you can stand out in front of your leaders when you're thinking of these avenues to build new capabilities, again, backed by insights. Yep. We talked about complementarity, and none of this is possible if you do not hone your art of storytelling. Again, there is a beautiful article in Harvard HBR about storytelling. All of these skill sets, the strategic mindset that we talked about, falls flat if you're not able to communicate or inspire your stakeholders. It's difficult to get even 5 minutes of your leader's time, say 30 minutes. And if that 30 minutes you're not able to sell your vision, there's no point in creating those. I don't want to say that Sundar lacked storytelling, but there were reasons why when he first launched or when he first shared that they should build a browser, there were cost reasons or whatever reasons, Google didn't go with it. But later on, when he backed it up with data, with more, I say vision, that's when the leadership jumped in and they decided to invest in browsers. So what I'm trying to say here is that you need to connect to your audience emotionally rather than just sway them with facts. Sometimes you can get alignment with facts. There would be people who are sitting in this room, they go out of the room, but they forget why they aligned with you because it's facts, with numbers, with graphs. So taking time, connecting with these people, building allies with these people would help you get alignment in a room, across the room, or even in rooms where you're not there, and presenting your vision. So tying it all together is your product vision, which defines the bounds of any strategy that you're taking or you're trying to build. And all of this needs this art of storytelling, or if you may say, this muscle of building the need or learn to communicate and connect emotionally with your stakeholders is how you bring it forward and grow into a product leadership position. Well, I think we've finished early. Well, thank you, everyone. I'll open it up for any questions from anyone.
Yeah, all right. Excuse me. Thank you.
I wrote it down, I gotta pull it out. Okay, so you talked about limiting the bounds of your vision statement, but then you talked about how Uber has a very broad vision statement, like taking over the world. So, also, my name is Joseph. Nice to meet everyone. And yeah, just like, how do you balance that? You know, like, when is it good to go for the taking over the world philosophy, and when is it good to be like, let's make this chair better?
Yeah, that's a great question. So to start with that vision statement, your vision statement from the get-go has to be aspirational. It should not be limiting. What I'm trying to say is that your strategies should limit to that vision statement, because if you're looking, you can look beyond your vision statement, but then it's a lot more difficult to get buy-in for something that is not aligned to your company's goals, your company's mission. Like if I don't know, if you're in a hospital business and you say, well, I see avenues to make new weapons, maybe they will not align to that. So I'm just saying that from the get-go, your vision should be about world domination, should be about what else can you do, but then bound your strategies within that vision statement. And vision statement is not there to stay. Big companies who are successful companies have changed their vision every 2 or 3 years, and you keep changing that as time changes. As Chris is not here, but as he said, we don't know how things would change in time. So yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? There you go.
Thanks. Could you give some examples of complementarity, especially when it comes to like how do you decide what the product team should do versus a third-party partner? Thanks.
Yeah, that's again a great question, and it is always tied to. Well, I guess the first step that one should be taking as a product person who is in that leadership position, is trying to exercise that strategy muscle, is look for complementarities, look for avenues for building new growth products. And once you do that, you build a strategy document behind it. You say why we should do it, what's the effort, what's the cost, what the rollout would look like, everything. I think Amazon is pretty, does this very popular product reviews where they talk about everything, and they start from, they take it backwards. They start from a newsletter or a media announcement of that product launching, and they back it from there to how you would build it. And when you're going through that exercise and you're thinking through different aspects of building that product, you will understand if this makes a viable business plan or it doesn't, or is this something that you would be able to get to easily by making strategic alliances with different companies. So I guess once you think of it, and then you just tie it together with your strategy.
Yeah, coming over.
Hi, my name is Claire. I'm here with McDonald's. When thinking about where you are in your career today and how you've gotten to the senior level of leadership, what can you attribute the biggest thing with working in product to allowing you to be at this level? What is like the one thing that you think has helped you stand out?
That's a great question and a deep thinker question. I can think of two things. One is, and I will talk about this from the perspective of being a woman. I think having the person who backs you up, that mentor, that sponsor is really important. So for people who believe in you, for people who would speak of you when you're not in that room. So that's key to getting a sponsor. I know it's very difficult and there is no one way of getting that sponsor, but I think everybody, or at least as a woman, you should be focused on finding sponsors who would take you along as they grow. So that's one. And second, again, is building allies. So building those relationships with your team is pretty important, because no matter how good you are, if you're not able to work with people, it's difficult for you to grow into that position.
I have a follow-up question, actually, because the sponsor part is huge. I think that's the unseen part of career growth and just learning in product and most careers. How do you know who is a sponsor and who isn't? Because it won't necessarily be your direct manager.
That's right. Yeah. Generally, they're not your direct managers. They're people you come across while doing things that you never thought you would come across them. And that's how you build that connection. There are some ways you can identify who's your sponsor and who isn't. The sponsor would definitely be a person who would be way more candid about you and about things that would help you get to the next level, where they see that, well, I think you should be here, but here are some things which you need to improve on so that I can get you here. And second is, they would generally not be very tactical. Like your coach would mostly look at what's next for you, but your sponsor would have a very, again, strategic vision of where you can be. And if you see that kind of perspective coming in from a person that shows that they're invested, and that shows that they see that potential in you that you are not seeing yourself right now.
So one quick follow-up. Are you sponsoring someone right now, and why do you sponsor them?
I won't say I'm a sponsor yet, but I do believe in some of our upcoming TPOs in our team. And the reason I believe in them is I've seen that spark in them of that product sense, which comes with experience, but you see that as an innate quality in someone who's probably just starting their product career. So you see that potential in them.
Cool. Thank you. I'll stop asking questions now. Let someone else have a chance.
Hello, my name is Shamel, and
I know you.
You know me. I just wanted to go back to your point. You talked about everything being, data driven, but I believe as, being product managers that there is that gut instinct, that intuition that does kind of drive decisions. So what's a good way to try to figure out kind of a balance or kind of a, a good rule of thumb of how much is based on data, how much is based on just kind of gut feeling, experience, and intuition?
That's a great question, and I promise I didn't feed her that question. It came from her. Data-backed decisions are pretty important, but as you said, a product person should know when to pivot or to work with less data. Again, talking about what Chris already shared, you cannot wait to get every data out till you work on something. It means that you're already late. So I guess when you're starting a new product or you're bringing in new initiatives, that's where your gut instinct kicks in. Your instinct kicks in when you don't have data, you have less data, but you get that sense of, I think this is the direction where we can go. And honestly, we call it gut instinct, but it's subconsciously being powered by all those experiences that you had, all that you read, all that you know, all the products that you have seen. And I had this question from a lot of people who ask me, how do I build this product sense? And this has been a term that has been used in the industry a lot. The way you build that product sense is mostly looking at other successful products and thinking, and going through their like shareholder announcements, going through what are they doing, why are they doing, what's the revenue, and building that experience. And that is what backs your product sense. And that is what kicks in when you have less data and you start building new products. But once you do that, what is really important is that you take small steps. You take small steps, feed that feedback cycle of continuous discovery from that launch, from that rollout, about how users are adopting to it, and then and that's how your data cycle also backs in. So it's a healthy mix of data and product instinct, but it's difficult to say what should take precedence, but your product instinct would let you know when you find that data it's not lying, but it's not what you expect it to be, right? You're trying to hone in on your conversion rate, and you see some funnel drop, and you think maybe if I make the checkout experience better, there would be no funnel drop. But then you're probably thinking that your gut instinct says that this is something else. This is probably because maybe we don't have the right products, or maybe we are. I don't know. So it's just that it's a healthy mix, is all I want to say. Yeah.
Any questions? All right, I have another question. So, bolt the doors. We talk about strategy and product, but I think a lot of the times when we think about strategy, there's the sort of the larger strategy. But there's also, for most of us, as we're going earlier, and as we go through the earlier parts of our career until we get into the more senior leadership roles, the strategy we're involved in is a part of that strategy, not necessarily the whole strategy. Can you talk a little bit about what people can do as they're growing in product to contribute in strategy and build that strategy muscle that we talked about?
Yeah, I guess the first step is to observe and learn, like be in that room, be part of those circles where decisions are being made, where strategy is being built, and understanding the reason how, what's tweaking that strategy. So once you are in those rooms, you see what's driving your company, your leaders, you would start understanding the ecosystem a lot more better. Because as you said, when we are so restricted to our product teams, we don't get the entire picture of what's the driving factor behind building this. And once you are in those rooms, you start building that insight. And once you start building that insight with some of the things that I've shared, with some of the things that all the speakers are sharing today, you can continue coming up with strategies backed by those insights and share with your leadership. And once you start sharing them in the right space and getting the right visibility, it would just keep fueling you to bigger rooms where more and more of these conversations are happening. So it's a good positive cycle of being in those conversations.
Anything that you think people should do proactively? Maybe not necessarily something that they've been told you have to do this, something that they can do themselves to basically take initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. I strongly believe in that, where as product managers, you are just not limiting yourself to what's being told, but looking beyond and continue looking at what else can we do to make this better, and just asking the right questions too, right? Like, I forget the book that this has it, but anytime there is a top-down flow of OKRs, it's a conversation between you and your leaders about why you should be doing it. And how you back it up is making sure you're reading into the right insights from your data beyond what's already set for you, so that you can come to that negotiation table backed with data to say that I know we're trying to improve revenue or conversion rate, but maybe this is what we have seen. Do you think this falls under what we should be doing? And having that conversation. And once you ignite that spark of looking beyond, and your leaders see that potential in you, that's where I think you open doors for you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yep, a bit.
Thank you. On that note, like, is there anything you can do outside of work? Like, let's say you're having that conversation with the leader. Could you be like, hey, Airbnb did this. Like, can we work that into our product strategy? Not necessarily like it's because they're a competitor, but like philosophically, like you said, we're going to look at qualitative research, or we're going to do what Amazon does and do a news posting and see how it does and then build something.
Yeah. To do something beyond work, is that your question? Like, how do we do or build that strategic thinking beyond work, or outside of your company? Okay, yeah. I guess you can definitely exercise that muscle outside of your company by being with like-minded people. Like, as product managers, we love to talk. You give us a room, we'll talk, right? So, and thankfully, with COVID behind us, I hope so, there are doors opening right now where people are coming together and having those conversations again. And that is where I find value in these gatherings, where you share your current challenges that you're facing in your company, or you don't have to share something proprietary, but you can generally talk about how else would this company do, right? Or what else can this company do if they're stagnant in this metric, or they are not getting the user footfall that they expected to see, and then brainstorm with other people and continue building that strategic muscle.